Live. Gonna give it a little bit of time, refresh the communities, make sure that they are loading. Hello, everybody. Nobody's watching yet.
Hello.
We're talking to ourselves for the time
It says
being.
we're watching the replays. Everyone that's caught the replay of it, they get to catch the very beginning of it. So all the stuff that like the best stuff gets loaded in here at the beginning, Scott.
Yeah, it does. It does.
The best people are
Let's
watching us
see.
right now. They're the replayers.
Yeah, it is. Okay, come on. Let's see. It's not in the group yet. That's probably why we have 0. Not in either of the groups yet. This is what happened. This is what happens. Facebook making their changes. Let's see. Are you seeing it on your end at all or anything? Are you checking or no? I'm checking.
You open it up and check it. I know I got some of our team that we're gonna watch and tune in.
Yeah. It's not showing anything. I'm gonna check the Imagen community itself and not the event. Still not even there. This is interesting. This is what I'm worried about with Facebook's changes. All right. Not streaming at all.
So even in the event, Scott, that we have, the Pioneers Unplugged event, I'm not seeing it in there either.
Same here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check. I have it also going to YouTube unlisted. So I'm gonna check there and just make sure. This is gonna be a fun intro recording because it's all right. So YouTube says live. I'm gonna check YouTube, and if needed, I can send out a ping. That's working. Okay. What I'm gonna do is send out a thing that says join us on YouTube because it's not working on Facebook.
Lovely.
Yeah, this is before I do it, let me check Facebook one more time. Refresh. On Facebook. Interesting. Okay, I'm adding a post to both communities.
I've got our group pulled up here, so as soon as you put the post in, I can approve it.
Okay. Where is it? Here's it. Let me do mine. Hey, see, this is why we this is exactly why. Oh man, gotta love it. All right. I just sent out a blast on the party full as well, so people will be getting a text message any second, and we'll just let people come on in. The funny thing is now,
join us.
Yeah, now we will actually, because it's YouTube, we will actually see the comments in Restream. So
we can see it here. That's fun.
We will, yeah, because YouTube doesn't block that stuff. Well, hello, whoever is watching live. Thank you for joining us. We are dealing with some Facebook technical difficulties, so we had to pivot to YouTube. So thanks for bearing with us. We're just getting everything situated, and then we will dive in.
Carly is saying it's unlisted. Does that make a difference? Can she still see
it just means it's they'll still see it. Cool. It's not a problem if it's unlisted. All right. So I'm just gonna kick things off. Gotta love Facebook.
This is the realness of it, Scott. This is like how technical things happen.
This is exactly that. It's so gotta love it. You gotta love
2 people here that work for like great tech companies, and Meta has to go and mess things up for us.
Yes, they do. So hello, Imaginers. Hello, Sprouters. Do you have a nickname for
Sprouters? Yeah, Sprouters. That's it.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah. See, sometimes we call them users, Scott, but I don't like it either. Them as users. It just don't love it.
Yeah. There's certain like customers I hate, clients I even hate, and users I hate. So I probably saw you use the word Sprouters at some point, and it was probably subconsciously in the back of my head. Well, Imaginers, Sprouters, thank you for joining us today. Sorry we had to pivot to YouTube instead of our communities, but we got to go with the flow. Please let us know that you can hear us, that you can see us, everything's okay on that end. Just leave a comment just saying, yes, we hear you, or something like that. Yes, we see you. Of course, we want you to be involved. So if you are watching live, tell us where you're watching from. That's always fun for us to see where everybody's tuning in from. Tara's been waiting for this. Proud supporter of Imagen and Sprout.
Yeah.
So
I love that. So, Scott, since
Yep.
Tara was one of the first ones to comment, I think what I want
Yep.
to add on to your ask of saying where are you from, let's
Mhm.
actually broaden that up and say if you're from Canada, give me like let's see that because I'm Canadian. Obviously, Scott, you're not Canadian, so I want to see like how many Canadians do we have versus non-Canadians, and we'll see what kind of like balance we have there.
Texas, Baltimore, Maryland, UK, New Jersey. Hey, what's up, John? Neighbors. Where in New Jersey are you, John? Nice. We're getting a lot of US, but we also have
No.
UK.
I don't mean to say, oh,
Uh,
as in I'm disappointed, but I just want to see some Canadian love in here. That's all.
yeah, yeah. Well, I love Canadians.
That's it.
While you're doing that, sharing where you are, if you are watching the replay, if a friend shared this with you, we are also happy you're watching. Sorry you couldn't watch it live, but we do want to know if you are watching the replay. So just comment with the word replay if you are watching the replay, so we know. And we do have this live stream up on a multiple computers so that we can monitor questions that come in. So please feel free to get your questions in for Bryan and I. We are representing two pioneer companies in the photography space, helping photographers along their journeys, whether it's administrative tasks, post-production, or anything related. So please get in your questions, share them in the live chat. We will bring them up on screen, which we can do because we're had to pivot to YouTube. And yeah, we want to, whether it's CRMs, automation, workflows, email marketing, galleries, album design, culling, editing, AI. Did I say that? I didn't say that. We are here to answer what we can. So if you guys don't ask questions, then Bryan and I are just going to chat about whatever, because we just started catching up after a couple years before we went live. So if you don't ask questions, we're just going to catch up. But yeah. I guess, Bryan, do you want to just do an intro about who you are and Sprout, just for anybody who is on the Imagen side who has not heard of Sprout or know who you are, and then I'll go after you.
100%. Yeah. Thank you. So I have been a photographer, a wedding photographer, portrait photographer here in Canada, in case you can't judge from the calls out to Canada. Yeah, I'm in Niagara, Ontario, not too far from Niagara Falls. And I've been full-time weddings, portraits for almost 2 decades now. And one of the things that I went to school for computer science, which is fun. And I'm one of those weird photographers that actually likes the business side of photography. And I've always kind of like talked about that when I introduce who I am and what Sprout Studio is, because most photographers get into photography because they love photography. And then they quickly realize, oh, there's like, I have to run a business doing this thing. There's like a lot more than just taking pretty pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was always weird and odd in the fact that like I actually like the business side. I like marketing. I like pricing. I like branding. I like those kinds of things. And so I realized early on in my career, Scott, that success in photography is a lot more attributed to someone understanding and knowing and having a solid system on the business side than necessarily just being a great photographer. And so I hit a couple roadblocks in my business early days, 15 years ago, trying to manage all these different pieces of software that I was trying to piece together to run my business. I was manually building client portals with like HTML to say like, here's an invoice from here, and here's a contract from here, and here's a gallery from here. I'm going to code it all together and then send my client the link. And it was just a mess. And I was like, why is there not a system that does all these things? And so that was sort of the idea, the seed, if you will, for what is now Sprout Studio. So Sprout Studio is an all-in-one system that helps photographers run their business. Does all the things they need to do on the business side, from CRM to leads to email marketing to questionnaires to bookings to invoices to contracts to everything they need to do up to the point that they touch Imagen and they need to do their editing. So that's sort of like what we do on Sprout, is like all the sort of like back end business administration things to help photographers spend more of their time behind their camera and less of their time behind their computer.
Yeah. We have very similar goals, and with the businesses we have, and we approach them at very different ways. And it's great that there's complementary and not
100%.
We have known each other for quite some time, and it's I had the honor of basically being there when you had that seed and watched you build it out, and seen the progression. And I was there for the launch, and it was quite a journey to for you, but also from those who have known you through this to see, just watch the journey in general. Just been fun.
It's been a lot of fun. Yeah. It's been
Yeah.
quite the journey for sure.
Let's see. I got, before I hop into Imagine and who I am, let's see some of the comments. So we got Linda. That's what I need, the back end business support. So, oh, that's what Linda also said. Need to know what you do. So we just answered that for you.
Cool.
Okay. So on the Imagine side, so my name is Scott Wyden Kivowitz. Also, like Bryan, been shooting for quite some time. Over the years, what I take on has shifted dramatically. It used to be families and cake smash sessions, which are those popular in Canada, by the way?
They are still. I feel like they're not as popular as they once were, but I still
Yeah.
see photographers doing them.
Yeah. I used to take on a lot of headshots, and then actually during the pandemic, things shifted, and I was asked to photograph some proposals, and it stuck. And now that's basically all I photograph are proposals, which are exciting and stressful and very fast paced, but so much fun. Yeah, so I also have a technical background and have been working on the website side of things for photography for quite some time. And then after about 10 years in that space, I got my job with Imagen. And now I am the community manager and the podcast host at Imagen. And I get to have conversations like these, and I get to talk to a lot of Imaginers and see what they need and see how we can help and all of that fun stuff. So Imagen basically does post-production for photographers. There's a lot of AI and automation, whether it's culling your photos using AI, whether it's editing your photos using AI, and also automated backups to our cloud that happen seamlessly. It's the only backup solution that is truly dedicated to photographers, because not only does it happen on the photos you want while it's culling or editing, but also if you edit with Imagen, we back up your edits with the raw files. So when you recover everything that you would need. So lots of fun stuff at Imagen. Please do get in any questions that you might have for us so that we can answer it. Again, whether it's something that Bryan can answer about what Sprout Studio offers, whether it's something I can answer what Imagen offers. We want to make sure that we can get to all of your questions. So please get those in, and we'll bring your question up on screen and answer them. Bryan, there's no questions right now, so I'm going to ask you some of the questions that I have on
Let's do
my
it.
list. Can you explain what a CRM is?
Yeah.
I'm breaking it down simple from the beginning.
Yeah. Can I think on the fly of a crafty, what does CRM stand for? Let me think. Okay, so CRM is I've heard some really interesting interpretations of CRM over the years that I can't just recall at the moment. But yeah, customer relationship management. Basically, what a CRM is it's a tool, a resource, a system, a framework where you sort of have clients and inquiries come in. It helps you kind of organize them. You can do your bookings, you can do your invoicing, you can do sort of the management so you actually stay on top of these things and not use your inbox as a to-do list, not use your inbox as a reminder system for who is paid, who hasn't paid, who is booked, who hasn't booked, where are they in the journey. A CRM lets you do all that stuff in one place. It's a framework for actually doing it. So it basically helps you serve your clients and build experiences for your clients and give them great experiences. So that's in a nutshell what a CRM is. And the interesting thing, which is a conversation we have a lot when photographers are like, oh, well, I'm looking at Sprout versus whatever, which I love, which is great. There's so many great tools and softwares that are out there for photographers. I'm never one to say, just the same as how I've always been as a wedding photographer, portrait photographer, hey, look at the options. If I'm the right photographer for you, come on back. Would love to serve you. If not, it's all good. No problem. So the same is true in the CRM space. There's a lot of great CRMs that are out there. There's a lot of great gallery tools that are out there. A lot of great other tools that can help us as photographers. One of the things that I had the vision for on day one from Sprout was I didn't want to have to manage multiple places to go and do all these things, because that
Yeah.
felt really cumbersome. It felt really cluttered. It felt like it was doing the opposite of what I wanted a tool to do for me in my
Mhm.
business. So, where I'd have to log in for one place for this, another place for this, another place for this. Sprout Studio does the CRM thing, but it also does
Yeah.
the email marketing thing, and it also does
Yeah.
the gallery thing, and you do all of those things in
Yeah.
one place, which is
That was
really what my
actually
vision was from day one.
Yeah, so my next question was gonna be, at its core, Sprout Studio is a business management system. It is
Yeah,
way more than just a CRM.
100%. Yeah.
Even though if you might go to it and say at first glance, "Oh, it's a CRM," right?
Right,
But
right.
when you start really looking down at what it truly offers, it's so much more.
Yep.
So what type of features are built in that would reduce or remove the need for additional software?
Yeah. So CRM is one of them. If you look at sort of like the buckets that you could kind of, if you zoomed up 50,000 feet,
Mhm.
CRM is one of them. Obviously, with that comes, invoicing tools, booking tools, contract signing tools. So any kind of system that you're using in that space, you can do in Sprout as well. You also can now you do galleries, so you can like create galleries, sell images from galleries, offer digital downloads, offer prints, do self-fulfilled prints, any of that kind of digital image sharing. You can do album proofing. So after you design an album or a book for a client, you can proof it, get their feedback on it, get them to approve it, streamline that workflow. Email marketing, you can do all of that stuff in there as well. So email drip campaigns, email blasts, any of that stuff that you would need to use an email marketing tool for, you can do in Sprout. All the automation side of things. So basically, I like to call Sprout Assistant, which is our tool that sort of does all the automation for you in terms of keeping your clients on track. It's like having a full-time studio manager that you don't have to pay, or you only pay, $50 a month for, which is what the Sprout subscription is, because it does all of the tracking. If you send a client a gallery and they don't open the gallery, Sprout Assistant can follow up and remind them. If they've opened a questionnaire but not filled out the questionnaire, Sprout Assistant can follow up and remind them. If they've viewed an invoice but not paid it, Sprout Assistant can follow up and remind them. So it just makes sure that everything is running smoothly in your business. So that's just like another one of the components.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, there's tools like bookkeeping tools that are kind of built in, and reports and analytics. Questionnaires are a great tool as well. Scheduling. So if you're like, hey, Scott,
Yeah.
let's meet next Thursday at 10 o'clock. You say, oh, Brian, 10 o'clock doesn't work. How about 9 o'clock? I'm like, oh, that doesn't work. How about Wednesday instead? Like that back and
Yeah.
forth that
How about
happens
a link?
way too often. Yeah. It's like, how about you just like take this link and pick a time that works for you? It already checks my
Yeah.
calendar. So you can do
Yeah.
all that as well in Sprout. So those are like
Mhm.
some of the tools that you can use Sprout Studio to replace. And again, CRM is like 20% of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been using it for my proposals, which, you know, they're not as much as a wedding photographer,
Right.
would utilize it for, but, um, I definitely enjoy the fact that everything is streamlined in one place. It's been really nice.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, like the printing, right? What are the options for labs that are connected to for the, clients to order prints?
Yeah, so right now we're kind of still in early stages of lab integration.
Mhm,
And it's interesting because that has definitely shifted, and my thinking on it has shifted also, our thinking in
mhm,
general at Sprout. For a long time, I mean, you have to like, I guess, for those watching, appreciate this idea that for a long time, photographers did this thing called in-person sales, right?
mhm,
Where like we would it's what's funny is it's trendy again now, but that's just how we always did
mhm.
business. That's just like a normal standard practice for doing business as a photographer, but it's sort of like
Yeah.
new and trendy again now. Um, and so having quality control, keeping relationships at the core of what we do as photographers, meeting with clients to install and deliver prints and to focus heavily on wall art and that kind of stuff has always been a business model and a practice that I've personally advocated for and believed is probably one of the most sustainable ways to run a successful photography business. And some of
Mhm,
the most successful photographers are those that run heirloom based studios and full service studios. And so for a long time, our only option was self fulfill. And that was a great option and is a great option because you can choose whatever lab you want, we can resize and prep all the files for you. So if a client orders, 10 8x10s and two 30x40s, you press a download button, you get a zip file. They're all sized, they're all put into folders. You just order that from whatever lab you want to order from, and you're good to go. And that works great, and it's a great tool, and it reduces time. Because I remember, Scott, back in the day, you'd get an order and you'd have a printout of it, right? And you'd have to be like, okay, I got to go find that file now. I got to go open it in Photoshop. I got to crop it. I have to like save it and then DPI and like all these things. Where do I save it? What folder is it? It was complicated. So Sprout definitely simplifies that. But yeah, I mean, lab integration and having that automatically sent to a lab, and then that just drop ships to your client. We currently integrate with White House. Like at the time of recording, we integrate with White House only, and only with a handful of their products. But it's something that we're making a priority for this year in 2024 to integrate more fully with White House and to add some more labs to the list.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I was at my previous job. I was also dealing with the same thing with print lab integration, and became a very popular request. So we put a lot of effort towards it, and it came out, and it was good. It went very well, and then I left. But it's a very powerful tool for those who either are afraid of IPS or just don't need it for, not every photographer needs it, depending on the niche. So I know for me, like, the fact that I have a full-time job at Imagen, and I do my proposal photography on the side, I don't have and I have a family, so it's like 3 big things. Like I can't do the IPS. I don't have time for it.
Right.
But so for me, like doing like easy ordering even if I was to do self-fulfill, having an easy ordering is a nice feature.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think like Imagen and Sprout, our mission and our drive and what we pursue is to help photographers spend more of their time doing the things that they love to do, and less of their time doing the things that they maybe don't love to do, or maybe feel monotonous, or maybe aren't the best use of their time. And one of the things that I often sort of teach through is this idea of being really critical. And this is like not tied to Imagen or to Sprout, just in general as a concept, being really critical of like, what is your time worth? And what is your energy best spent doing? Because I think a lot of the times photographers, they get into this, I call this the rocking horse paradigm, which is this idea of photographers always feel busy, like they're always doing something, they're always moving like a rocking horse, but they're not actually going anywhere. They're just busy. They're busy for being busy. And that's because a lot of the times we think that what we're doing with our time is the right thing, but we never actually pause or take time in like CEO mode, which is what I call it, to be critical about what we do with our time, to say, oh, is that actually what I should be focusing on? Or is there a better use of my time? And so I think that the underlying principle behind both of our business models is just to like help photographers save time, and like, put that saved time into something that's more meaningful or more important or more impactful, or maybe just like have time away from your business and spend time with your family.
Yeah. Um, you just got me thinking about something. Maybe this exists and I just don't realize that it exists. Have you thought about adding a um time tracking slash is it worth it for me to do it myself tracking type of feature in Sprout, where it could identify areas where you could either outsource or use a different tool or whatever it might be. I know that you've done a lot. I think you even wrote a book on the lie of busy, right? Or was it a course? Was it a book?
Yeah, it was a course, yeah, and a talk. I
Okay.
keynote that often. I'm actually going to Santa Barbara in a few weeks to teach that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So have you thought about like actually building a tool like that into Sprout to help photographers identify areas where they could be more profitable, save money, get more time back, whatever it might be?
Love the idea. For my Sprout team who's watching, write that down. That's a great idea because I love it.
Plug your ears.
So we have a tool, actually, Scott. It's a principle that I engineered and pioneered. This is probably 7 or 8 years ago, called the Growth Potential Indicator Score. Long word, GPIS for short. basically it's a framework and a system, and we actually do have a calculator, and we have some articles that I've written about it. So for my team watching, if you don't mind, drop the links, because I'm sure people would love to check it out. It's a framework and a scoring system for a photographer to put a whole bunch of potential opportunities in front of them, things that they might be considering doing that they perceive would grow their business, right? Should I do a trade show? Should I do this ad? Should I go to this networking event? Should I invest in Sprout? Should I invest in Imagen? Like these different things that they could be pursuing. And there's a rubric that they kind of rate. It's like a bunch of columns, right? That they rate from the drop down to say like, okay. And what it does is it then grades them all and then spits out in order, saying like, here's the ones that are going to give you the most growth. Here's the ones that are going to give you the least growth. So spend your time on the ones that give you the most growth, because I believe there's this concept, and I talk about this a lot, called small hinges. Small hinges move big doors, meaning there's things that we can do with our time that will yield us greater results than other things. All you need is a small hinge to move a big door. If you can find what those small hinges are in your business, you can see massive growth in your business. And so GPIS is really like a tool and a framework for that. Not quite what you're saying, but I kind of like the angle that you put on it too, which is being critical of your time and trying to get the most for your time.
Yeah. So one of the things that made me think about that as well, besides from what you were saying, was I spoke with Mike Morby. I don't know if you know who that is.
No.
He's from Pennsylvania. He's one of the founders of Shoot With Me.
Okay.
And I had him on our podcast, and during it, he brought up the fact that as part of his business a year ago or 2 years ago, I forgot how long ago it was, he actually put together a spreadsheet about like tracking, literally, here's how long it takes me to cull a session. Here's how long it takes me to design an album. Here's how long it takes me to do the album session with the client, and all these different things. And he was tracking the money, he was tracking the time, and like the time was also money. And the spreadsheet basically outputted how much, if he was to go and use Sprout, for example, how much money and time he would save.
Yep.
So he would know, okay, I could be X more profitable if I just stop doing this manually, or if I was to outsource somebody to do my album sales specifically, I could be more profitable in this way. So that's one of the things that,
what's so interesting about that is, I mean, gosh, this is going back like 2008, 2009. I co-wrote a book with Rob Knoll called Pricing for Profit. And the book has remained in circulation since then, hasn't changed, hasn't needed to change, because the principles of how to price yourself are the same. And I've taught that over the years, Scott, literally to hundreds of thousands of photographers. I've keynoted that talk dozens and dozens of times. It's even used as a textbook in some colleges for photographers that are learning to become photographers. And that's a process that I teach, which is like, make sure, like, this, how do you price yourself as a photographer? Like the classic question, right? Well, the first thing is like, figure out what your inputs are. So what is your time? What goes into something? If you're going to sell an 8x10 print, if you're going to sell a portrait session, if you're going to sell a wedding album, whatever the case is, how much time goes into that? Most photographers don't do the work, or don't ever track it to understand what actually goes into it. And then don't ever actually factor their time in, because they think, well, an 8x10 from White House, it's going to cost me $1.95. If I mark that up 3 times, okay, I'm good to go. There's my price. But they never factor in their time for that stuff. So we actually have a free pricing calculator. If our team's watching, drop the link to that, because if you go through it, you can punch in, answer a couple of questions. It's going to say, cool, how much is the print from your lab? How much time does it take you to retouch? How much time does it take you to order? How much time does it take you to package? You answer all these things, press go. It's going to say, great, you should be charging X for your 8x10 for the first print. And if you're going to sell a duplicate of it, here's what you should charge for the second one, because it figures out what the difference is between that. And the number that you look at when you get that critical and that intentional with how you look at your time, a lot of the times is really staggering. Like I have over the years, when I go through that exercise, whether it's for a print or whether it's for a session or whatever the case is, even when I used to coach photographers, I'd go through this and I'd say, okay, so based on all this, you should be charging whatever, $800 for your sessions. And they're like, I'm charging $125. And I'm like, okay, so either there's just 2 realities here. One, you're not making any money as a photographer and you're going to be out of business in a year. or two, you're paying your clients to do business with them, in which case you're also going to be out of business in a year. So the
Yeah.
idea there
Yeah.
is that like if you can just be really critical about what your time is worth and being really clear about what actually goes into the work that you do as a photographer, it gives us a whole different way of looking at what we do. And that's really that
Mm.
whole idea of like success in photography is so much more business. I often say it's 80% business, 20% photography, because all that pricing stuff that we just talked about, value proposition and calculating and marketing and selling, and that's all business stuff. That's not
Yeah.
shutter speed and aperture and ISO.
Yep.
You can tell I get pretty
Yeah.
passionate when it comes to pricing, but anyways.
I was just checking the YouTube feed as well because I was like, nobody, the only people commenting right now is your team. So
Oh,
I wanted
really?
to
Oh,
make
no.
sure. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't like a break between Restream and YouTube, but I think we're good.
Right.
So reminder for everybody who's watching, there's a bunch of you watching. Please ask your questions so that it's not just me asking questions. Bryan, do you have any questions for me? Because I have more for you, but
Yeah.
do you have any questions for me that about AI, about automation, about Imagen that I can answer that you think that everybody watching might have
Yeah.
questions about?
I do. Here's the thing. I'm gonna ask
Yeah,
the same level of question that starts with like, well, what is a CRM? I'm gonna
yeah,
try and put my hat on, right? For a
yeah,
photographer that's watching right now, that's like, okay, obviously AI is all the rage, right? You just say AI.
yep.
I think people like maybe it was 24 months ago. It's kind of like, that seems like futuristic. Now it's kind of like, okay, AI like is a thing. We know that. We understand that. We grasp the concept of it. But walk me through for a photographer that's like, okay, AI, I get
Uh-huh.
it. I see that there's like this neat, magical, technical thing that can happen. No idea how it works, but I don't need to know how it works. um, what does like AI editing mean? If
Okay.
you're a photographer,
Yeah,
is it just like a preset that is being pre-clicked for a bunch of things? I mean, I know the
yeah.
answer to it, but that would be a question that I'd imagine a photographer that knows nothing
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Explain the basics of like what is AI editing?
yeah. That is like the most common question we get from people who are completely new to AI editing, especially at trade shows. This is like the number one question
Yeah.
that comes up. So the simplest way to put this is that a Lightroom preset is a blanket of settings. Okay, it
Mhm.
is, you know, exposure 5, contrast 10, highlights -4, whatever it might be. It's a blanket of settings. You apply it across 100 photos. 100 photos get the same blanket of settings, even if their
Right.
exposures are completely off.
Right.
What AI editing is doing is when you create a personal AI profile with Imagen, it's not only looking at how you edit, um, for all the photos that it's been trained on, but it's actually looking at how you shot it. It's looking at the exposures and saying,
Mm.
"Oh, if your classic case was my favorite example is I use a brand of strobe known for misfiring, and you go cheap, you get cheap. It just is what it is, unfortunately. Um, and um, I have photos that the flash fires, and then 5 photos later, the flash misfires and is darker.
Mm.
When Imagen touches it, it doesn't know, or you can't tell. I mean, rather, it knows, and you can't tell in the final edit because it has learned that my flash constantly misfires, and here's how I adjust it.
Mm.
And the end result, it knows how to get from A to Z, and unlike a preset, which is a blanket of settings, it's going to say, I need to get to Z or Z, which is the final edit style, but I need to get there from A, and A is always changing, so
Right.
Z or Z is always going to change, but the final look is going to be consistent. So
Got it.
that is what AI will do for the editing. It gets you that consistency, even if there's inconsistencies out of the gate.
Right.
So,
So it's
uh,
almost like let's like take this into a sort of totally different realm. Let's say that I want to start working out. I've never worked out before in my life. Let's say I want to start working out. A preset is like finding one video on YouTube that says, hey, go do 10 bicep curls, go do 3 sets of bench presses, and you're gonna get super jacked. Cool. That's like a generic recommendation. It
Mhm.
has no idea if I've ever worked out in my life or if I've worked out every day for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Whereas a coach who says, cool, hey, like talk to me about, what do you do and what's your fitness level like and what are you used to and how long have you worked out? Have you worked out before? What do you like to work out? What kind of equipment does your gym have? The coach
Yeah.
is then going to tailor something towards me that is built based on what I know, what I can do, what my starting point is. Whereas a YouTube sort of like video prescription is very generic and might work or might not work depending on who the person is. So you're
Yeah.
saying Imagen is more aware of that starting point,
Yeah.
can get
Yep.
you to the finishing point that you need, knowing where you're starting, as opposed to a preset just
Exactly.
being like, cool, click this button. We're going to always increase the exposure by 10, period.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's another good example besides from the strobe misfiring is a lot of wedding photographers are notorious for front lighting your subjects, right? Your
Mm,
couples and stuff. And then you want to get that epic backlit silhouette. Imagen knows what you did and knows how
right.
you got to the end result. So even when you have completely different lighting scenarios like that, it still figures it out because it learned from
Mm,
you of how you do it. Like, it does not know, of course, that you did a backlit thing, but it
right.
recognizes that, hey, when your exposure, when the metadata of the original is like this, which is your typical backlit silhouette, it's getting you to your end result, which is
Mm.
this. Um, so, I see some questions. I love seeing
We
questions
have
come in.
questions. I have a
Yeah.
follow up, but I'll let the wonderful
Yeah,
audience
yeah.
ask questions.
Okay. Sprout Studio, useful for a non-retail photo business, like commercial corporate photography. Use a rental studio. Ooh, rental stuff. That would be cool. Okay.
Ooh.
That's all you.
Yeah,
That's all
so
you.
so Matthew, that's a really great question. Sprout Studio was definitely designed at the core to serve photographers who are dealing with clients. So I say that as a broad statement to say if you're a landscape photographer, I mean, I'm sure there's elements of Sprout that you could use, but it's probably not the right fit. If
Mhm,
you're a fine art photographer, it's probably not the right fit. If you're a street photographer, that you're not really like serving a client, you're not. It's more an artistic expression, or you're going for art galleries or books and that kind of thing, zines. It may not be the right fit. However, if you're doing commercial work, if you're doing corporate work, if you're doing editorial work, for those kinds of photography, you still have an end client. You have someone you're dealing with. It may be the photo editor at a magazine, or it might be the art director for a company, or it might be an ad agency. But it's still a person and it's still a company, and so you still need to have them sign a contract and send them an invoice and get them to book and deliver them images and let them download, let them favorite, and all those kinds of things. So, long answer to a short answer, yes, it's very useful for photographers like you. However, again, I just say that with the caveat of like, if you're,
mhm,
fine art, landscape, street, like it's not probably the best fit for that kind of photographer.
mhm. Nice. Your team is quoting you. Um, you have been running though, haven't you been doing marathons?
Yeah, I haven't done a full marathon. But I run a lot. I've done a handful of halves, a couple of tries, and yeah, got another race coming up.
So technically you're working out, just not in the
Yeah.
way that you were describing.
Oh no,
Yeah.
they're laughing because I do work out. I go to the gym every morning at 5 a.m. So that's
Oh,
that's
okay.
top of mind
Yeah.
for me. Use that as
That's
an
funny.
example. Yeah.
Yeah. Alyssa, this is for me. So basically, will it color match your images for you? So even if you didn't get it right in camera, it'll make it to match your style. Yes, exactly. If if your camera's on auto white balance, we will match it to what it learned from you from those edits that it was trained on. So
Can
100%
can I
it is
ask a
perfect.
question on that, Scott?
Yeah, yeah.
I want to take the opposite perspective of where I
Mhm.
asked the previous question, which was like, okay, I know
Sure.
nothing about AI, so like
Mhm.
educate me. The opposite question is from like the photo, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, so I'm sure that you're familiar with it, but it's the photo purist, right? Someone who um, wants to have a lot of their own artistic control.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want, like, they very much feel like the editing is is like a finishing expression of
Yeah.
their initial vision.
Mhm.
They could listen to this and be like, "So are you saying I lose that? Are you saying it's not as much my work anymore? It's like the computer's work?"
Mhm.
Curious to hear, like,
Yeah.
how do you guys perceive that, or how would you answer that kind of question?
Yeah, we used to get that a lot, when we first started out. We don't get it as much. I think
Mm,
it's starting AI is starting to be adopted,
yeah,
enough in the industry that, we don't get it as much, but we still
yep,
get it.
yep,
Basically, 2 things to keep in mind. One is that, um, it's learning from you, okay? So,
mm,
it is doing what you would do anyway. That's first of all. Second of all is it's non-destructive, okay? So you can still go in and make changes, and just to add a third on there, um, it's really designed to take the tedious, mundane, boring, annoyance of color correct, exposure correct, crop, straighten, all these things, and do that stuff for you so that you can
mm,
then focus more on the more creative side of the edit that you want to do, whether it's, um, taking away flyaway hairs or removing exit signs or bringing that photo then into Photoshop and doing, super intense retouching work on it. I mean, Imagen can do subject mask and skin smoothing, um, but even then, like you're in control. Nothing is
mm,
permanent, and the core global edits, again, like I said originally, are you. So
right,
it's not taken away from you. It's just adding more time so you can focus on more of the creative stuff and
mhm,
less of the boring, repetitive stuff that you would
yeah.
do to every single photo.
That's good. It's almost, it sounds like, it's this idea of, I don't know if you've read a book. I'm trying to think of the name of the book now. It's Rory Vaden. He's got 2 books, Take the Stairs, and I'm forgetting the name of the second book. My team will find it, I'm sure, and drop it because I love Rory Vaden. Um, but he talks about this idea of multiplying your time, basically
Mhm.
meaning, how do you, put 1 minute in now and get 10 minutes out in a month from now? Like how do you do? Because if you can do that and find ways to do that, and you're continually doing that, you're able to multiply your time
Yeah.
by investing time now to save time later. And it kind of
Yep.
sounds like that's the model. Like that's
Yeah.
the process. Yeah, like Alyssa said, it sounds like it would make editing a lot faster. It's doing what you're
Yeah.
already doing, just doing
Yep.
it quicker for you. And I was gonna
Yep.
actually make the parallel, Scott, which is interesting. Initially, a lot of photographers that would look at Sprout, they'd be like, "Well, I don't want, Sprout." Thank you, procrastinate on purpose. That's the one. I don't want, Sprout to send invoice reminders, or I don't want Sprout to be sending these emails sort of on my behalf, or I want to know what's going on. I want to be the
Mhm.
one that touches base with my clients, and I want to be. And it's like, initially that was a concern, and I think that also has subsided to the extent where, yeah, but if you're gonna, every time that you got a client that has a wedding, next Saturday, and every single Monday before the wedding, you're gonna send them a message saying, "Hey, looking forward to Saturday. Here's your invoice you've got to pay." If you're gonna do that every time, which most photographers don't do every time because they forget, right? So, like, if you're gonna
Yep.
hope to do it every time,
Mhm.
why not find a way to put that on autopilot so that you don't have to do it every time? And it kind of sounds like
Mhm.
that's the same concept as Imagine. If you're gonna make that exposure to, like, roughly where you'd have it from, like, a density standpoint in an image every time anyways, why not let the AI just get it there for you, as opposed to you having to, like, manually do it
Yeah.
yourself?
There's another thing that I think, we talk about a lot at Imagine when this type of thing comes up, that I think probably relates to Sprout as well. The fact that when you're editing or if you're replying to an email, right, and you're having a bad day, it's
Mm,
gonna be different than if you're having a
mm,
wonderful day.
mhm,
So, by templatizing, on the Sprout side for an email, right, an invoice reminder or whatever it might be, right, um, which you could still personalize it, right,
yep,
but you're working off of a template that's personalized, and then, or on the Imagine side, having your photos edited, whether you're having a bad day or not, your photos are being edited consistently and your emails are being sent consistently, um, with you not needing to worry about it on that bad day.
yeah,
So that human emotion really plays a huge role in what we do in the creative side and in the business side of things. So that's a big factor for using automation and AI for sure.
It's one of those things, and this is kind of coming back. I don't mean to keep pulling us into the live busy idea, but I've talked to so many photographers over the years. I'm gonna say so many, like hundreds, thousands, that
Mhm.
just feel like they're constantly a victim to their business. Like they
Yeah.
feel like, did I just trigger
Yeah,
an
you did a
automated? Yeah, I did
reaction. It's
too.
okay.
I did
Here,
too.
I'll do one of
It's
these just so that
distracting
we're
sometimes.
even. Oh, it's not gonna do it. Mine's not gonna do it, is it?
Mine will do it. Mine will do it. Ready? Wait for it. There we go. Nice.
Yeah, why is mine not doing it? I want mine to do it now. Now I'm jealous.
You
Mine
may have
usually
yours
does it.
turned off or something.
Yeah, weird.
The thing is that a lot of photographers often feel like they don't have the freedom that they hoped to have when they started their business. Like, I don't
Mhm.
think any photographer ever started their business to be like, man, I'm gonna leave my 9 to 5 to go have a 9 to 9. Like no one is ever saying like, God, I cannot wait to spend hours behind the
Yeah,
computer. This is going to be so much fun. I can't
yeah,
wait to be stressed out to no extent. I can't
yeah,
wait to burn the candle at both ends. Like I am just loving
yeah,
not having freedom from the
yeah,
business that I created to have freedom from. Right. So like
yep,
that, like photographers don't want that, right? Like we start
yeah,
businesses, we have the entrepreneurial itch because we want to do something that we love to do. We want to do great at it. We want to fulfill our vision, our passion, our creativity. We want to do work that's meaningful, that's important. We want to
mhm,
support our families with it. Um, and then we find ourselves in this situation where we're like, man, I don't have control over my own business. I don't have control over my own time. I don't have control over my own life. And I'm actually designing my life around my business and not designing my business around my life. And the
mhm,
things that we're talking about here, Scott, like how do you just save time? How do you do the things that you're going to do anyways, but not have to do them yourself manually? Those are the keys. Like it's success in business and success in creating a business that can serve your life is so simple. It's almost obvious, but it's not obvious. Just
yeah,
spend your time on the things that actually move the needle and don't spend your time on the things that you don't need your individual time. And using tools
yep,
like Sprout, using tools like Imagen are going to help you so that you can actually pour your energy and your resource and your time into the things that actually require your individual time. You can't
yep,
have AI go out and meet with a client and be in front of the client. Go do that. You can have AI send your emails and do your first round of edits instead of spending 7 hours doing it yourself. That's a
yeah,
simple no-brainer that will just and that little thing is going to unlock a whole world of possibility for you and what you can do in your business.
yeah. Just to twist this up a little bit. We're talking about software here, right? But in the physical world, right?
Mm,
It's the same thing with having a robot vacuum in your house. It's the same
that's
thing
true.
with having a cleaning company come to your house or your studio. Like
Yep.
these things, I would my wife would kill me if I said this, but she has a vacuuming anxiety. Like she has to vacuum every day.
Yep. I
Which
feel
I
that.
bought her a nice
Yep.
robot vacuum and she doesn't
Yep.
do it anymore.
Yep.
Right. So she's now playing with the kids with me rather than vacuuming the house like a maniac every single day.
Mhm.
It's the same exact thing. These little things. Sure, that robot vacuum was expensive, but it pays off dividends because she's now having a happier life because she's not
Mm.
being obsessive about a vacuum, right?
Yep.
So, um, it works whether you're talking about a virtual digital thing that can help your life or your business or a physical one like that.
100%.
And
I wasn't
there
sure
was a
where you were going, Scott, if you're gonna be like, "Well, we can actually send robots to meet with your clients as well now, so you don't need to go to those meetings anymore." I'm like, "Wait, Scott, no, that's not the point.
Yeah, no.
Don't go
Yeah,
there."
no, no. Yeah. So there was a question from Wayne. Is Sprout good for real estate?
Yeah, it's Sprout good for real estate for sure. We have a lot of real estate photographers that use Sprout. Again, like Sprout wasn't per se designed for like volume work. So if you're doing, school photography or sports photography where you're shooting, that's a horrible phrasing. When you're photographing
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds and thousands of kids for a sports organization, Sprout's probably not the best fit for you because we're not going to scan a code and match them and auto organize them. And it's just not meant for that. But for real estate, for sure, if you're photographing for real estate agents or realtors or home stagers or designers, and you need to make galleries. And again, if you need to invoice clients, book clients, send contracts to clients, send images to clients in a non-volume way, then Sprout's gonna be a great fit for you.
Yeah. You mentioned the like the super high volume school stuff where you need like to scan stuff. There are companies that do that. I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but there are, for those who might need it, there are companies that are like specialized in that.
Totally.
Alyssa, Tara replying to Alyssa, Imagen makes it so fast to get your base edits done in your own style. You can tweak your profile to improve it each time and make additional adjustments after the rare times it's needed. By the way, she's talking about fine tuning, where the AI profile that you make that learns from you gets smarter over time.
It's almost like, I would imagine, Scott, and correct me if I'm wrong in phrasing it this way, but it's almost like, so let's say, let's take technology out of it for a minute. Let's take software out of it for a minute. And let's say I've hired Joe to do my edits, and Joe has now come into my studio to do my edits. And so I photograph a wedding on Saturday. Joe comes in on Monday. I say, Joe, here's the wedding. Take a look at 10 other weddings that I've done. Learn how I like to edit. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how I like to edit as a photographer. Go ahead and edit Saturday's wedding. And Joe's going to go to work and do it. Now, Imagen will do it in a much shorter time than Joe would, but regardless, let's say Joe and Imagen then spit out the wedding. The first time Joe does it, I'm going to look at it and be like, Joe, it's okay. I mean, it's better than the raw files, but it's certainly not these other 10 weddings that I photographed. Here's some feedback for you. And then the next Saturday, I do it again, and Joe gets a bit better. And the next Saturday, I do it again, and Joe gets a bit better. And after 5 weddings, Joe's editing the weddings like I edited the weddings. And guess how much time I had to put into it? 0.
Right.
I would imagine, look at that. I would imagine that Imagen is a similar thing. However, I bet that the learning curve is a lot shorter in terms of like timing. The first time, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not going to pop out perfect, but it's so much closer. And then you fine tune it's there, right? So that I would imagine that's like the process that you see.
It depends on a bunch of factors. So there is the amount that it's trained on. So when we first started, it was 5,000 or more images. Now it's 3,000 or more images. But that's a minimum, right? So the more you can give it to learn from, the smarter it's going to be out of the gate, right? So the accuracy is going to be better for somebody teaching it from 20,000 photos versus 3,000 photos.
True. Right.
Then there's also the consistency. So if you are training it on photos that are not consistent, right? Then there's going to be inaccuracies there.
Right.
And then there's also, you use, correct me if I'm wrong, when you first started, you were Nikon and now you're Fuji, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know how I remember that, but
good memory.
So
I was Fuji before Fuji was cool, Scott. Okay, just need to be clear in saying that.
So like if you were to train your profile on only Nikon photos and then you gave it Fuji's, you might say, why is this so off, right?
Right.
But if you trained it on Nikon and Fuji's, it would probably be spot on, you know, for the most part. But then if you gave it a Sony raw file, it might be like, what the heck's going on here? I don't know how to handle this. So this is where like there's a whole bunch of factors. What I like to say is diversity creates diversity, but it's also the volume you can train it on as well.
But it's what's so interesting is like, even if we again, like, and I don't mean to keep simplifying this, but for, I guess for those that maybe don't understand the technology side of it, if you go back to that situation with Joe, right? Like if I give Joe 10 weeks to learn my style, he's going to be able to, you know, look at a lot more weddings and pump out work that's more consistent with my style. That's one factor that you're saying. If I give Joe work that is horribly inconsistent because I'm not a consistent photographer, he's going to be like trying to figure out like, what is Bryan's style? I don't really know. Let me try, right? So it's not going to be consistent. So Imagen is going to be no different, right? Like if I give it more images, it has more to train itself on. If I give it more consistent images, it has more consistency to be more consistent on. So I think that's like a really fair way to look at it for a photographer. It's like, you can only learn what you have.
Yeah, definitely. And besides from being able to output the results faster than a human could do, because it's relying on science, literally, to figure everything out. it can learn from your changes faster than a human could learn from your changes as well. So if you were to get your first wedding back, for example, and then you were like, it's a little off, and then you made your final edits and sent it back to Imagen. Let's say it was 3,000 photos. You could fine tune that profile that same day or the next day, and then and by the next day your profile could be perfect.
So it's like you gave Joe a constant IV drip of coffee and just like, he worked really,
he's going
really quick.
Yeah. But like Imagen offers a whole bunch of features. We are running low on time, so I don't want to like go too long. But Imagen does offer a whole bunch of other features like profile adjustments. So if you didn't want to wait for a fine tune, you can actually dial in your profile with all the Lightroom parameters instantly without any delay.
Cool.
And then once you do fine tune the profile, that resets. So there's a lot of stuff, cool stuff that we do like that. There was a question from Herman I saw. Does Sprout get into marketing a particular type of photography and in marketing areas?
So, Herman, I think if I'm understanding, and maybe you can either clarify in the comments, or if we run out of time, you can get in touch with us and we'd be happy to help. You can do all of your marketing in Sprout. I mean, all of your marketing, a fair bit of your marketing. You can do email marketing in Sprout. You can do like sort of more of a sales-based marketing approach, like with email drips and workflows that deliver things to your clients in terms of like questionnaires and all that kind of stuff. You can do all of that. It doesn't do your marketing for you. Like you still have to sort of build your own marketing campaigns and do that kind of stuff. We have templates for a lot of things, so we can help you on that, but it is not a marketing platform at its base. It is meant to sort of like give your clients an experience, but it's not like a customer facing portal. A lot of whenever we were approached by investors or that kind of stuff, they're like, oh, you should have like a marketplace where you have like a listing of, here's all the photographers in this area who are Sprout customers. Photographers hate those kinds of things. That I've learned that over the years. We don't like the two-sided marketplace business model. I've seen a lot of businesses come in and come out of business trying to do that model. So we don't do that side of thing for it, Herman. But if I'm misunderstanding the question, maybe you can just get in touch with us and clarify.
Yep. So for anybody, any Imaginers who are watching, I have a QR code up on screen to the Sprout Studio community. We were supposed to be streaming there, but again, Facebook. And I'm going to switch it to the Imagen one in a second. So for any Sprouters that are watching, here is the QR code if you want to join the Imagen community. Again, we're supposed to be streaming there, but Facebook. So please go ahead and scan those. And please join each of the communities if you're not already in there. We as you've heard and seen us talk about, we're both here to help you get back more of that time in different ways, to get you back more of that time so you can focus on other things in your life or in your business or whatever it might be. Go skiing, take a nap, go play video games, whatever it might be. April asking a question. I love April. She's amazing. This is for you, Bryan. April's fantastic, by the way. So
oh, I love this. I used Sprout when it first started. What has changed since you launched? April, first of all, thank you for trusting us at the very beginning, because that was a very wild, it's been a very wild journey, to be honest. A lot has changed, April. One of the things that we have become known for is the ability to listen and to build and to develop right in front of our customers. So we're always improving Sprout. Like literally every week we're pushing updates to Sprout. We're always building new features, always trying to make things better, easier, simpler, quicker, more efficient for you as a photographer. So if it's honestly, if I was talking to a photographer and it's been 6 months since they've used Sprout, I would say try it again, because if it didn't work for you then, a lot's changed in the last 6 months. So if it's been 6 years, April, you probably won't even recognize it anymore. So I would definitely encourage you to check it out, April, if you haven't already. We do have a free, and I don't want to like go over here on time, Scott, but we have a free 14-day trial. So anyone that wants to hop in, check it out. There's no credit card required. So if they just hop on over to getsproutstudio.com, 14 days for free, hop in, try it out, see if it's a good fit for you. Reach on out if you have any questions. We're happy to help. Our job and our role here is to get you up, get you running as quickly as we possibly can. We even have a concierge service so that if you need to migrate clients from your old system over to Sprout, you can pay us to do that for you if you don't want to do it yourself. So there's lots of ways that we can get you up and going really quickly. And we'd love to serve.
I think I had a fun idea before we close out, but your team shared, I'm going to bring it up on screen, a coupon code as well.
I didn't even know we had that. That's cool.
Then I also want to share at the same time. Where is it? I lost it. Here it is. So if you scan this, you can get 1,000 free edits with Imagen. So
nice.
There you go. I'll leave it up for a second, and then there's another comment just came in. Oh, that's for Evolve. The $200 off is for Evolve.
So that's the event I'm speaking at Evolve workshops in Santa Barbara in April. I'm actually going to be going pretty deep on this whole live busy stuff. So if anyone's interested in that and wants to be in person for a really incredible workshop and retreat, would love to have you guys join us there.
I believe that my coworker Noella will be there.
Oh, nice. Very good. So, well, I can't wait.
I'll talk to you about that after we stop recording.
Sounds good.
I thought it'd be fun to wrap up, and I'm sort of putting you on the spot here, but you let me know if we both share two things, well, one each, of what's coming from each company over the coming days, weeks, months, one feature, one whatever it might be, whatever you're open to.
Let's do it. I got one top of mind because funny enough, it's technically live already right now in Sprout, but nobody can see it. We've had it built since actually just before or just after Black Friday. So it's just been sitting there waiting for us to launch it. And it's called Sprout AI and Questionnaires. So we have a tool in Sprout already called Sprout AI, which basically helps you write your emails and helps you reword your emails and tweak them and come up with replies and answers and things like that. Great tool, obviously, on a sort of series here that we're talking about AI. I'm sure those that are listening that are still with us would appreciate that. But Sprout AI and Questionnaires basically will create your client questionnaires for you. So you just say, hey, I want to, figure out what the timelines need to be in a wedding day, or I need to ask my client for feedback after a portrait session, or I want to figure out what kind of album they want to have. And you just type that in plain text and press go, and it will build a questionnaire for you and add all the questions natively in Sprout. And then you can send that to your clients or tweak it. So that's something that we have coming out very soon.
Right now, the AI is like, let me out.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Eventually, it'll just unhide itself, Scott, and be like, I'm out. I'm launched. Brian's talked about it. That's it.
Yeah. On the Imagen side, a very popular request was to support other apps beyond Lightroom Classic. So for any Imaginers watching this, in the coming weeks, we are going to softly roll out support for folders, which means that anything that is Adobe Camera Raw, or like from Bridge, Adobe Camera Raw from Photoshop, or Lightroom, like the Lightroom CC desktop version. From the local side, you will be able to soon edit from a folder. And it's going to be soft. We're not doing a full launch on it right out of the gate because we are going to roll it out for the editing side first, make sure things are good, then roll it out for culling and also profile creation as well. So that is coming soon, plus some other stuff, but that's the only one I want to share right now.
How fun is this that both you and I were here talking about these exciting, fun things that are coming. We're both working with tech companies, and yet we both understand the sort of like nuance of like hype, but also then at the same time, like it's quietly rolling out. It's technically out, but you can't see it yet. Because we understand that like with technology, things need to be tested, and especially as you get into AI stuff, like it needs to live for a little bit before you can start making a huge splash. So we're both kind of like, this is really exciting, but also like,
there's so many companies, not just in photography space, but in all spaces and genres that push out something in their software, and it's like, yes, they probably tested it ahead of time, but once it gets, the thousands and thousands of testers, users, whatever you want to call it, on it, that's when things break. And that's why 100%. The quiet rollout and gradual of like, yes, like we're coming out with this feature, but it's only one stage of like a multi-stage process
which is smart. Very smart.
Yeah. So let me just make sure there's nothing else. All right, that's great. Bryan, there was some good questions in here. I'm glad that people started asking. We did start out with a little technical hiccup, but we shifted fast.
We figured it out. We're good.
We're good at it.
Nothing throws us off, Scott.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you everybody who joined us live. Thanks for shifting to YouTube from Facebook. And we appreciate all of your time. Bryan, I appreciate your time.
Likewise.
Yeah. So everybody who's watching live, talk to you soon.